And when she like pulls off her I slapped my mic. Hello, mortals, monsters, and myth lovers alike. You're listening to Podcast of Poseidon, where we explore how ancient myths become modern pop culture by reading Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson and the Olympians. This is Chapter 19, Tantalus. I'm your co-host, on loan from Hunters of Artemis, Darian Smart. Joining me is my co-host and brother, hailing from the fields of Asphodel, DJ.
How's everybody doing today? I managed to convince Hades to let me out to do this because he's a fan of the podcast.
What? That's amazing.
It's crazy, I know. I mean, Fields of Asphodel is boring as hell, though, as you can imagine. Every now and again, I like to walk to the Fields of Torment and see what's going on there. But
just check it out.
It's a long fucking walk.
I imagine. But it sounds like if you'd like to do that, you're probably very familiar with the topic of the day.
I am. We're talking about Tantalus today. That guy's a dick.
That guy's a dick. I know. Maybe
dick.
One to rival Zeus? We will determine. But before we get into that, let's swing by the camp store to make sure we have everything we need.
So who's our new patron this week, Darian?
We don't have one.
Then are we calling out a donation?
No, it's still July.
Then why are we here?
Well, DJ, for the very first time in the camp store, we have product to talk about.
No way.
Yes. So we have a product announcement to talk about. We have a potential product announcement to talk. It's really more swag. It's really more swag. I love to celebrate milestones.
Yeah, you do. You text me every time we get a new milestone for our downloads.
I do. Yes, exactly. Every time Buzzsprout sends me the little banner, like, you got a download milestone, I say, fuck yeah, we're going to post that on Instagram. And it's great. So we are approaching a Patreon milestone. We're getting real close to having 10 patrons.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do something to celebrate. And what I thought would be cool is let's give our patrons a present, basically.
Yeah, I'm into that. That'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. And so I like buttons, so I decided, why don't we make buttons for the podcast?
I'm more of a fan of pins.
But pins are more expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Here's what we're going to do. When we reach 10 patrons on Patreon, I will commission artist and friend of the show, Cato Glasson, to design Podcast of Poseidon buttons. And we will mail them to all of our patrons. No matter what tier a patron is, once we reach 10 patrons, everyone who is a patron at that point in time, when we hit 10, everyone's getting a set of buttons.
Yeah, that's exciting. That'll be a lot of fun. I'm certain that these designs will be awesome. She's always been a very good artist.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool. It'll be, podcast logo. It'll be our catchphrase, "Don't be like Zeus," which I guess is our catchphrase.
I mean, at this point, yeah, we say it at the end of every episode.
We do. And then after that point, so don't worry. Y'all, this is not a limited time offer. I mean, it is limited, but after we hit 10 patrons, any new patrons who donate at the $5 level or higher will also receive a set of buttons in addition to their physical thank you card that we will send you in the mail. And then also, maybe if conventions are ever a thing again, we'll have buttons and we'll give it out there. I don't know. I like giving out free things.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm sure we'll have a good time with this.
I'm sure. When I cosplayed Taco from the Adventure Zone, I once went to Trader Joe's and bought a box of macaroons. And I did, in fact, just give them to anybody who recognized my cosplay. And it was great. So I love giving people things. And I'm very excited to do this. And we're really, really close. So,
friend, I think that same year that you cosplayed Taco, maybe the year prior, but she cosplayed Taco too. And instead of handing out real macaroons, they gave out stickers of macaroons.
That's very cute. That is very cute.
Mm-hmm.
Like, post-pandemic, maybe you don't hand out food. I never touched it. They were in the box. I brought out the Trader Joe's box. They were still in, like, the little packaging. I let people take their own. But stickers may be better. We could do stickers. No, buttons. We'll do buttons.
I'll do buttons. It'll be fine. It'll be fun.
It'll be fine. Yeah, if you've been thinking about subscribing, maybe you hear us talk about our bonus episodes that we post every other week, or maybe
Bonus episodes are some of my favorite episodes we've recorded, and that's coming on because I do think some of our episodes are fire.
Yes. Yep. If you ever want to hear us get drunk and talk about Dionysus with one of our siblings, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever wanted to have an in-depth analysis on various standards of pop culture to see who would successfully be able to get Percy to Camp Half-Blood, we did that too.
We did that. I think that was our very first one.
Yeah, it was. It was really fun. And if you ever actually want to hear us properly talk about the game Hades, there's a whole Remyth episode for our podcast hero tier and higher.
Yeah. For $10 and $15 patrons. And if you we've said this before, if you subscribe at $15, you get to pick a Remyth episode.
Yeah, you could make us watch something so terribly boring and then make me watch it twice because Davis didn't watch it.
Talking to you, Tim O'Connor.
Talking to you, Tim O'Connor. We love you, Tim.
We love you, Tim. We do. That Pastoral Symphony was really boring.
This is the second time that he will have heard us say we thought it was boring before that episode actually comes out. Oh, it's just the timing.
It's just the timing.
Keep an eye on our Instagram at Podcast of Poseidon if you want to see what these buttons look like before you commit. You know, keep an eye on there. I'll definitely post pictures when they're all set up and pretty. You could also, if you want to just see what Kate's art looks like, friend of the show, she's tagged in many things, at k.oglasson. I just posted a fabulous reel of their Hades stickers that she made that are adorable, that are on my laptop now.
Heck yeah.
She's great. You're gonna want these buttons, y'all. They're gonna be real cool.
Well, enjoy us ripping to Tantalus for about an hour.
Hell yeah. Back to the show. So DJ, what do you remember about Tantalus from the Percy Jackson series?
I remember that he didn't like Percy. He couldn't eat food because it just ran away from him. He liked Clarice. He was just a dick. I know Dionysus didn't like him. Not saying much, but you know.
But yeah. I do appreciate that in the books. How just Dionysus doesn't like him. Just does not. Absolutely, clearly fucking hates this guy.
Yeah, he's like, man, I miss my old pinochle buddy Chiron.
Mm-hmm. Just regularly throw shade at Tantalus like, oh, man, your s'more just over to the front. That's rough, buddy. But you know what? Keep trying.
Yeah,
you'll get there.
You'll get him next time, I swear.
Because I think Dionysus just loves to watch this son of a bitch suffer.
I think he likes to watch a lot of people suffer.
Yes, he does. He is an Olympian. That's kind of like one of their favorite pastimes.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm going to give it to Dionysus.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us what Tantalus did in the myths and why he's in Percy Jackson?
Oh, well, I would love to. So, before I dive into Tantalus, I want to talk about this Greek storytelling trope, essentially, of the House of Atyrus. I'm going to say that again. The House of Atyrus, which is the lineage of Agamemnon and his wife, Clemestria, who we talked about on the pod. Their son, who killed the mother after she killed Agamemnon for killing their daughter. And then said son was tormented by Furies. Mm-hmm. And Agamemnon's brother was the husband of Helen. Yes, that one.
Helen of Troy.
Yep. And that family was just one example of the hyper dysfunction that was the entire house of Atyrus. And it's just basically some House of Usher shits. This family was just essentially an ongoing soap opera in Greek storytelling tradition. And the reason that these people were so fucked up is directly due to Tantalus and his bullshit.
Yeah, Tantalus and his bullshit.
All right, so Tantalus was a Grecian king of Lydia, son of Zeus. That'll be important here. And he was favored by the gods, so much so that they would actually invite him up to feast on Mount Olympus, and he got to dine on banquets and was served nectar and ambrosia.
Holy cow. That's actually pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, no,
Sadly.
seriously, it's literally food of the gods. Only the gods are allowed it, but Tantalus got to come up there and hang out and get in on all the hot goss and eat this food. And now you asked what it was that Tantalus did that pissed off the gods so much that he got this famous punishment that we'll discuss in a second. And the interesting thing is that it could have been one of three things that caused the gods to throw their wrath onto Tantalus.
Yep.
The first one is that he stole some nectar and ambrosia from the feasts.
Never good.
Never
Not a
good.
cool thing
No.
to do.
Definitely, he was not offered a doggy bag.
Nope.
You shouldn't, just bad guest, just an absolute disrespect to your host.
Come on, man. At least ask.
At least ask. At least ask. And they probably said, no, you can't take this to the mortal realm. And he did so anyway. The slight number 2 that Tantalus could have pulled was that he spilled the secrets that he learned on Mount Olympus back in the mortal realm.
He was a fucking just loose-lipped. That's never good.
No.
Gotta
can't
hold
be
that
gossip.
tea in. Don't spill it.
Don't spill, especially when it's godly tea. It's gonna burn everything. It's gonna leave stains
seriously.
everywhere. Or maybe this is what happened. At one point in time, Tantalus invites the gods down to dinner at his palace because he's like, you always, let me go to Mount Olympus. I want to return the favor. And the gods are like, yeah, tight. That's our buddy Tantalus. We'll go to his place and eat. That sounds great. So they all show up, and Tantalus serves this fantastic stew for them that was made of his son, Pelops, whom Tantalus had killed and cooked in a giant cauldron.
And that's not cool.
No, it's not.
It's a bad dad.
No, bad dad.
Little bad dad.
Yeah, real fucked up thing to do, my dude. Now, the reason that Tantalus does this thing varies. Maybe he was trying to get revenge for perhaps he did slight the gods by stealing the ambrosia or spilling secrets and they stopped inviting him to parties. Or maybe he was still in their good graces and just wanted to prove that he could pull a fast one on them. Wanted to prove they weren't all-powerful, all-knowing, omniscient beings.
Omnipotent.
Yes, they weren't all omnipotent. But the plan quickly fell apart because the gods did know what he had done.
I thought he revealed it after they ate it. I thought that was the thing.
Well, DJ, we'll get to that in a hot second, actually. You're skipping ahead on me here. But essentially, yes. So actually, no. You're right. So there are some versions of the stories. So a couple versions of the stories will say that the gods were aware of what had happened and called bullshit real fast. Say for Demeter, who was so distraught about the loss of Persephone that she just kind of wasn't paying attention and did eat some of the stew before the cat came out of the bag.
Yeah.
In some versions, the gods do know right from, or they don't know, and they actually until after they have eaten. And Tantalus is like, psych, and they're like, ha, double psych, Uno reverse, you're going to hell.
Yeah. He's like, whoa, you want to fuck with the gods?
But the gods? Tantalus gets a little full of himself. He's like, well, I'm the son of Zeus, and I get to dine on Olympus, so I'm basically a god myself. He thinks he can go play with the big boys. He cannot.
Yeah.
So, the gods clearly don't appreciate that. And when I say they send him to hell, I don't just mean the underworld. I do mean they send him straight to fucking Tartarus.
Yeah.
Where Tantalus is best remembered for the punishment he receives in Tartarus.
It's a pretty, it's a rough punishment, as you said, earlier. His punishment is that he can just not eat food, or it's he is chained in such a way to where that an apple is just out of reach, and the well he is standing in, he cannot drink from.
Yes.
And it manifests in Percy Jackson, where food just runs away from him.
Yeah, when he's in the mortal realm, he reaches for food and it just dives away. When he's in the underworld, it kind of does the same thing because he's standing neck deep in a pool of water. Whenever he tries to move to drink, the water drops down. Whenever he reaches up to the fruit, it's just forever out of reach. Which I think is fair.
Yeah.
For two out of the three punishments, any of the punishments where his slights involve food, that's a fair punishment. If the slight is him spilling secrets, I think we could have come up with something a bit more suitable.
I think we should have cut off his tongue. Boom, he doesn't
Not
have
a bad
anymore.
one.
Can't spill secrets.
That's not a bad one. He could like write it down though. He was a king, so he's definitely literate.
Well, I mean, cut out his tongue, gouge out his eyes. He can't write. There you go.
Yeah, no, that'll work. Sure, ancient Greek times. Yeah, that'll work. God damn, that was really dark. You okay?
What are you talking about? Anyway, moving on, we're gonna talk about bad dads.
Davis just understands the assignment. Okay, hold on. So, okay, yes, so, yeah, that's basically the story of Tantalus. It's interesting. I always, going back to Percy Jackson briefly, I always felt like Tantalus's presence was weird.
Yeah.
Weird, right? Because he tells the campers basically his story. And in Percy Jackson, it is he steals the nectar and ambrosia. Then the gods are like, fuck you. So then he invites them down and feeds them his son. And then they get punished. And then he gets punished. He's like, but I always knew I pulled the fast one. So it is distressing. And I think I mentioned this in our Sea of Monsters episode. It is very distressing that the gods send this man who killed his own son and fed it to them to look after their children.
Yeah, it was definitely not a good move on the gods' part. They definitely could have chose someone better, but like that's the thing is I feel like the gods don't actually give a shit about Camp Half-Blood.
No, not unless they need something.
Yeah, I think we said this before too, that like they don't give a shit. Like they use it solely to live on their legacy.
Yes, they rely on their children to continue to believe in them and practice the old ways so they don't fade. But yeah, the fact that they send Tantalus to which and Dionysus keeps saying how your curse will break in soon because this place is hell. This is punishment enough, and eventually it'll replace your other curse. I'm here as punishment, so like obvi. But like simultaneously, you get that Dionysus fucking hates this guy.
Yeah.
Like absolutely cannot stand this dude.
Yeah, the moment that Tantalus grabs food, he's like, "Oh well, you're gone," and then they just
leaves.
It
just happened to line up with the fact that they revealed that Chiron had nothing to do with Luke.
Like, oh, great, awesome, see it.
Bye, bitch.
Bye, and he just snaps him away, and he's back at the Tartarus.
Like, there are other people they could have called to, like, look in on Camp Half-Blood.
There are definitely a lot of other people.
Sisyphus?
I think it's just, like, Sisyphus. I think they could.
Well, I guess his whole thing is they don't want him out of the underworld again, so.
Yeah. I think it's just, Zeus being like, hey, he's my son. He'll be fine.
You know what?
My son's watching over Camp Half-Blood. They'll be fine.
Here's the thing. He's there because Odysseus ran into him in the Odyssey.
Yeah.
And Sea of Monsters is Percy Jackson does the Odyssey. So Tantalus gets to be in Camp Half-Blood. And that's the reason why.
Yeah.
There's so much Odyssey stuff. There's so much more Odyssey stuff in Sea of Monsters than even I realized.
No, yeah, it's just the Odyssey, essentially.
You see, that actually makes a good point with Zeus being like, nah, it's my son. It'll be fine. Because Zeus is so fucking arrogant that even with the whole, he once did kill and cook his own kid, but he's my son, so it's probably fine.
Yeah. It's like, nothing I wouldn't do.
Actually, yeah, probably. To be fair, yeah. Don't be like Zeus.
Don't be like Zeus. He's not a good guy.
Not a good guy. Neither is Tantalus. Bad dads.
Yeah.
Reoccurring thing on this podcast. I don't feel like we should investigate that further, but I'd rather not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, we'll be investigating it today as we talk about bad dads in fiction.
Yeah. So, yes. So, on Tantalus, the whole Tantalus himself isn't really a thing you see a lot told and told again. Some elements of his story are, but not necessarily him. But shitty dads are a reoccurring theme in storytelling and also in Podcast of Poseidon. So we're going to talk about that today. DJ has brought some fantastic examples or heinous examples.
I got a couple. Not a lot,
just a couple?
but just a couple.
Oh, just a few. Okay.
We got Omni-Man from the hit series on Amazon Prime, Invincible. Now that guy,
which is also a comic book.
Yeah. Not a good dad.
No, I have not watched Invincible, but I did see the honest trailer for it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. I've seen a bunch of screenshots and clips, and I get the gist of it. And it's just dark Superman.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, in training for his kid, he just kicks the shit out of him and sends his kid on like impossible missions. And his kid is invincible, like it's the main character. And so like that's the whole thing. And sure, I might need to watch it, but Omni-Man doesn't look like a good dude. He just protects Earth because he likes it, but that's about it. He doesn't like actually care about Earth. He's just like, yeah, no, it's just I'm here and I'm king of Earth. Earth is mine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he protects Earth. Not because it's like his duty or anything. He's just like, he feels like he owns it as far as I'm aware.
It's like his property, so he's going to take care of it.
Yeah.
Like your lawn. You're going to take care of your lawn.
Yeah, essentially.
You don't have affection for the grass.
Yeah, no, essentially. And then another bad dad is a group of bad dads in a podcast. This is kind of a shout out to the podcast, but not really. Dungeons and Daddies. If y'all haven't seen it, I do recommend it. It is a D&D real play podcast. And it's just a lot of fun. Like it's really funny. And I caught up to it recently and I'm like, well, what do I do now? But it's a group of 4 dads who get blasted into the Forgotten Realms. And they're on a quest to save their sons. And it's like they're from our world and they just like are they get teleported to the Forgotten Realms. And so as we go through, we find out, these guys aren't the greatest dads.
Oh, goodness me. Okay.
Like, they care for their sons, but the way they go about it's not super good. Daryl, he's very, like, closed off and, like, let's talk about it later style, you know?
Uh-huh.
Fucking Ron Stampler is just the weirdest motherfucker I've ever heard in any fiction, and he's just, like, an emotionally stunted stepdad.
Oh, okay.
Glenn is a rocker, is the bard of the group, but he's like a rocker dad, so he's like not really there for his son, and also like just lets his son do whatever. He's a good friend, but he's not a good dad to his son. Mm-hmm. So that's bad. And then Henry is just like those over uptight vegan hippie dads.
Oh no!
It's just not and his sons just run rampant. He's the kind of guy that would probably, like, he doesn't in the series, but like if he found out about it, he'd be like, yeah, we don't say no to our kids, we try to say yes in a constructive way to prevent them from doing stuff.
Oh no!
They're not good dads, and their dads are even like worse. So...
Wait, you get to see their dads?
You get to meet their dads, except for Daryl's dad. They haven't introduced him yet, but Ron's dad is the biggest piece of shit. Like, holy fuck, evil guy. And just like, but all of the other dads are just like not great dads. Like it's wild.
So you've got not great dads who raised men who turned into not great dads.
Essentially, yeah. And now they're blaming their kids, and the whole reason they're there is because like, we're gonna take your kids and raise them ourselves because you guys aren't good dads. Meanwhile, they weren't good dads.
Oh, it's so the granddads have kidnapped the grandsons.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, it's insane.
My roommate and my friend both were listening to this podcast and talking about it. I did not understand that this was the premise of the podcast.
That's the premise of the podcast. It's funny. No, it's really fucking funny. Like, definitely my favorite D&D podcast. It's just like hilarious. I'm trying to think about it. I had another example, but I just can't even think right. Homelander from The Boys. Yeah, Homelander. It is revealed at the end of season 1 that Homelander is the father is a father. Bad dad. In the same principle of Omni-Man. He just like believes, but like his son doesn't have powers.
Oh.
Yeah. So he just like pushes his son off roofs and shit.
Oh my God.
Yeah, trying to like get him to fly. And Homelander's just like an emotionally stunted child. So
yeah, he's another like evil, or he's another like fucked up Superman allegory, basically, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do like The Boys a lot too. I think it's a lot of fun.
I have not watched either Boys or Invincible. I hear they're great. No qualms. I just not my
thing.
brand of television.
No,
I have a podcast to edit, y'all. I can't consume every piece of media.
No, that's fair.
Watch The Owl House.
Yeah. Trying to think of other ones. I'm just having a minor stroke. I know I had like a good amount, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. If you want to Google bad dads in pop culture, we've done that on the pod before. Best teachers in pop culture. Who should we talk about?
Boom. Well, that didn't. There we go. The 9 worst pop culture dads.
Ooh, where's this article from?
Wired.
Okay, who we got?
Reese Bobby, Talladega Nights. Goddamn, ain't that the fucking fact? I would like to extend that to Ricky Bobby. Because we see him and the way he parents his kids. Not the greatest.
Okay, hold it. We have to, I want to hit pause real fucking quick. I think the Bobbies from Talladega Nights and Omni-Man and Homelander are perhaps 2 different species of bad dad. There is neglectful parent and there is abusive parent. And not to say neglect is not a form of abuse. It absolutely is, and it can cause a great deal of trauma. But also
emotional abuse or mental abuse. Which one would you, or not mental, physical abuse. Which one would you prefer?
I don't like that. Okay, I want to know, both bad, but Omni-Man did literally crush someone's skull with his fucking hand one time, and Ricky Bobby lets his kids eat fucking popcorn or fucking chocolate for breakfast. I don't remember. Pretty absent father.
Yeah. Moving on. Rick Sanchez. Yeah, that's not a good dad.
From what?
From Rick and Morty? Oh right. Yeah, you don't watch that. You
I
his last name. Rick and Morty. Rick Sanchez.
Yeah. Also shitty dad. Yeah, okay,
shitty dad, shitty grandpa.
I've seen a handful of episodes because I went to a cabin and my friends were watching it there, so I saw like the Pickle Rick one.
Yeah,
and like
that was
one
not
other
a great one. That's not a good episode. I didn't like the Pickle Rick episode.
And I'm watching it and I'm like, I get why people would like this show. It's weird and bizarre and it does some bizarre things and that it can be fun. You're definitely not supposed to like this son of a bitch though, and if you think he's cool, you're definitely so.
People idolize him and they miss the point of Rick and Morty because they idolize him.
That's fucking creepy.
And it's crazy. Fletcher Reed from Liar Liar. Yeah. That's Jim Carrey's character.
Yeah.
In Liar Liar.
Okay. Okay. I would also put Jim Carrey's character from Liar Liar in another entirely because he gets better.
He gets better. Yes, but at the start of the film, he's not keeping his promises to his son.
No, and that does suck. He's also a pretty absent dad.
Yeah. Harry Wormwood from Matilda. Man, I haven't watched Matilda in a long ass time.
Yeah, those are fucking monsters. The Wormwoods are just like the Dursleys. They are awful, awful people. I'll put them in the same place as I put the Homelander.
That's fair.
And Omni-Man. They can go over. That's there. That's where they go. I know I'm all over the board. I have a system. It makes sense only to me.
Yeah. Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we really need to expand on that one, but like, yeah. Dr. Evil from Austin Powers. Yeah, he's not a great dad.
No.
Thanos, no, not a good dad.
No, not a good dad.
Bad
Fuck
dad.
Thanos. Yeah. Here. Okay. I want to talk about Thanos for a hot second and the concept of fatherhood in the Marvel, it's specifically in like Infinity War and Endgame. Just to deep dive into, because we have this mirror of bad dad and then good dad, and good dad being Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And the concept of fatherhood is actually a really important theme in those two movies, because, you know, Thanos, he is like the father of Nebula and Gamora, right? And that's the whole thing. Yeah. And Tony's not a dad yet, right? But he starts the movie saying he had a dream that he and Pepper had a child.
Yeah.
And then when he's leaving and taking off, Pepper calls him and she breaks up, but we can't hear what she says. But Tony has an expression on his face like, I have to get back immediately. We assume that maybe it is. Pepper's like, I actually am pregnant and you need to come home now.
Yeah, I need you here now.
Now, you can't just leave. And so Thanatos, I was playing Hades. Thanos is very condescending to everyone he encounters in this movie. Like,
yeah.
he sucks, right?
He's a
At one point,
monster.
right after Wanda has to kill the Vision. So when Thanos shows up right after Wanda has killed Vision, she's weeping and mourning. He's like, "It's okay, little one, I understand your pain." She's like, "No, you fucking don't." And then he uses the time stone. He does that to everyone. He calls him little one, child. Like, it's very, very dismissive. Tony's the only one he's not.
Yeah.
And it's not because he knows that Tony's a dad, but it's because Tony, thematically, is supposed to be the opposite of Thanos as a father. Because Thanos, as we know, spoilers for Endgame. It's been out for a while, y'all. Spoilers for everything.
It's been out for 2 years. Please, what are you doing?
Go see it. It's awesome. He thinks his mission is to make the world better, get rid of half the population, and then there's enough resources and all this shit. It's like, Thanos, you can just make more resources.
Except for he got rid of half the resources as well, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, also, it's the problem isn't actually the limitation of resource, it's the problem with the distribution of how resources are passed out and how we handle it and who gets to make the decision. Whatever, fuck off Thanos. But he thinks his goal is, he will claim, his goal is to make the universe a better place. He is willing to kill his daughter to create that universe, willing to kill her for the better universe that he gets to live in. Where at the end of the movie, with the end of Endgame, Tony Stark is willing to sacrifice himself to create a better universe for his daughter to live in.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the themes of, like,
wild
fatherhood. It's like, what is actually... Because here's the thing. Thanos says that he loves Gamora. And the fact that killing her gives him the Soul Stone confirms that, yes, he does love Gamora. You had to give up something you love. But it also, I think, it shows that love isn't enough and love isn't an excuse.
Yeah.
I think you'll have a lot of bad dads who we talk about who claim they love their child or they love something or it's for the greater good. But I think it also is a reminder that love isn't an excuse for whatever you do. Like, yeah, he loved Gamora, but doesn't mean he was a good dad. Doesn't excuse all the abuse and the terror he put her through or Nebula through. And then we see, like, Tony, his whole purpose is he wants to save everybody, but he doesn't want to, like, risk giving up his daughter for it. Or not even risk giving her up, but risk her not existing because they changed the past or something. Risk her reality shifting. But he's willing to give himself up for her, for Pepper, for Peter, for all of them. And that's since we're talking about dads here, I want to talk about Tony Stark and Thanos because I think that's really cool in that of dads.
Yes. No, it's like 100%. Like, it's a very good parallel that they drew throughout those two movies. It's just a lot of fun. Marvel may get a lot of flack nowadays, but I still think that there are some great movies.
There are some great fucking stories. I hate the fact that Nat didn't get any love at the end of the movie, where everyone showed up for the big fucking funeral for Tony Stark, but it couldn't have been a joint funeral for Natasha as well. Like,
yeah, it was.
She also gave herself up for her family.
A little interesting for that.
It really could have just, like, proof that Tony Stark has a heart. And I saw a Tumblr post one time. It's like, why couldn't we had a thing that said, and that Natasha Romanoff had a soul? Because her whole thing is she didn't think she was, like, a human. She didn't think she was enough. She gave herself up and got the Soul Stone. Like, it's proof that she was always enough. That's my one gripe about Endgame, is that where was her love? Also, Steve went back in time and didn't save Bucky. I don't fucking buy it. I don't fucking buy it.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. It's weird. I think we should get back on topic of bad dads. Trying to go to another list. Here you go.
I have a really bad dad that when I think of bad dads in pop culture just comes to mind right out of the gate.
Lay it on me.
The Chimera dad from Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yo, yeah, that was another one in my list. Like, genuinely, like,
yeah,
that guy, he's a piece of shit.
He's the worst.
Bad
no,
dad,
oh my god,
bad dad.
Yep. For those who have not seen Fullmetal Alchemist, you should definitely just watch Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood because it's the proper adaptation of the manga and the story's a lot stronger and it makes more sense. They use alchemy. They can transmute elements from other things. It's very interesting. The lore of that one is great. The world building is fascinating. You have a character whose wife has died many years ago. He's a scientist. He has a lot of pressure from the state to be able to he created a chimera. It didn't live for very long. He's got a lot of pressure to create something new. He also has a very cute little girl who loves her dog so much, and they're just so inseparable, and they just love the main protagonist so much, and they call him Big Brother, and then the scientist dad decides, well, I'm going to make a chimera, and just combines the little girl and the dog, and it's fucking a nightmare. It's a goddamn nightmare.
Horrid. It's
just
so fucking bad.
upsetting. Holy shit. I know I'm saying this and they're like, da-da-da, but like, oh my god, I still remember when I watched it with Johnny for the first time, and we were just both viscerally upset. I was like so disturbed. I was like, I'm hungry. I wanted to go get a snack. It was like the middle of the night at Nana's, and I'm like, I'm too scared to walk down the hallway by myself. Will you come with me? Like, it wasn't even like a jump scare horror thing. I was just so disturbed. I'm like, I don't want to be alone.
Yeah, no, like, that's the thing. Like, there are, like, a few animes, honestly, that I'm like, these are really good introduction animes. And, like, they're obviously, like, for a specific genre, too. I would say Fullmetal Alchemist is a good intro anime if you want to get into, like, a horror anime style. And, like, sure, it's not, like, completely horror, but the early season,
horror elements, yeah.
Like that shit is fucking unnerving when they try to get their mom back. That episode, like, it's all like, that's unsettling. Not what this episode's about. I found a new list by the Rap 25 Worst Dads in film and TV. Obviously Homer Simpson, but that's the thing though, is I don't actually think Homer's a bad dad.
He's not a great dad.
He's not a great dad.
And he does strangle his son, but that was like the comedy of the 90s.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, though, is he's just, like, in my opinion, not a bad dad. He quit a job, right? Like, this is early season, and, like, the whole, you've probably seen the memes of it, do it for her.
Yeah, do it for her.
And that's for Maggie. Like, when he found out Marge was pregnant with Maggie, he begged Mr. Smithers for his job back, and Mr. Smithers says, like, if you...
No, Mr. Burns.
Smithers
is his assistant.
I always get them mixed up for whatever reason.
That's fair.
But he begged Mr. Burns for his job back, and now he just like Mr. Burns is like, yeah, okay, if I give you your job, you work for me forever, or you will not have another job in this town, and I will make sure of it. And I'm like, okay.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so now he just like does that, and so he had a sign up that said, "Don't forget, you're here forever." And so he changed it, like, by covering it with pictures of Maggie for that "do it for her" thing. And I'm like, that is, like, he's not a great dad by any means, but he's definitely not a bad dad.
Yeah. I think sometimes we have to really, in storytelling, it's like, dads are people. They're people. And they're not always perfect. And sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes they make mistakes that send you to therapy when you're in your 20s. But I also think that's an important thing that everyone has to, like, realize at some point in time, is like, your parents are people, and like, when you're a kid, if you're lucky, and this is not the truth for everyone, I definitely acknowledge that. I would say, like, we are very fortunate that, like, I definitely 100%. Saw Dad as like Superman.
No, yeah, like, absolutely.
And that eventually breaks. And not everybody gets to have a childhood where they think their dad's the best. Some dads are fucking bad dads from the get-go.
Yeah. It sucks.
Yeah. And I guess to classify, while we definitely make allusions to our dad sometimes, I would definitely never say our dad was a bad dad. I would say he made some mistakes and maybe should have taken a parenting class.
Yeah. But I don't think he's a bad dad.
He's not like with
honestly, for me, I'd say he's a great dad. I very much.
Good dad.
I think he did a great job raising all of us. I think we all came out to be stand-up people.
Here's the thing. We're all fucking stellar, the four of us. Like,
yeah. And it's wild that they got 4 out of 4. Let's go.
Yeah, for all the shit I think I gotta talk to my therapist about sometimes about mom and dad. Like, wow, are the 4 of us relatively mostly well-adjusted adults who have not committed any serious atrocities? How about that?
Back on topic. Another one on this list that I don't agree with.
Okay.
Ted Mosby.
We don't know anything about Ted Mosby as a father, except for one time he sat down to tell his kids a story that was mostly him asking permission if they would be cool with him dating
and like
their Aunt Robin.
That's the thing is like they take away like the whole like the reason he told his kids the same story for 9 long seasons, then sucker punched them in the end.
No, we're
not the
show
kids.
Sucker punched us in the end.
Yeah,
we're not the kids.
We're not the kids.
We're the audience.
That doesn't make him a bad dad for
No, the
telling him a
kids
story.
knew the whole time that he was actually asking. Because as soon as he says, "That's how I met your Aunt Robin," they're like, "Aunt Robin." The kids know because they know how the story is.
Yeah.
The kids knew the whole time. Oh, he wants to date Aunt Robin, so he's telling us about like their whole thing and just trying to figure out like he's like, "This is why I don't want this to come out of the blue with you. We actually have this really long history that you're not aware of because of the things that happen in our history, and so I just want to like, would you be okay with this? Because I know it could be weird, but." I think he's a really good dad because he does go and like give him, and his kids aren't small; they're teenagers. They're old enough to like get. Sometimes he shares a little bit too much details. Maybe the kids didn't need to hear about all of Uncle Barney's
didn't
bullshit.
need to hear about or the slutty pumpkin just in general.
Yeah,
we didn't need 3 episodes of that.
I do love the slutty pumpkin's outfit though. Like, not gonna lie, I think it's super cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would actually think like no, Ted Mosby is a pretty solid dad. Like, we don't actually know anything about his parenting, but we do know like he is willing to like present his children with information and ask, not just make decisions be like they're my kids, they'll be fine with it. He recognizes that there's a family unit and there is like heartache and there is struggle, and maybe he's also letting him know how many times he and Aunt Robin broke up. And so maybe the relationship that he's starting, maybe they'll break up again. Maybe it doesn't end super well. But he still is willing to try, but he wants to make sure that his kids are okay and he doesn't want to put them through undue trauma.
Yeah. George Bluth Sr., bad dad.
Definitely bad dad. What the fuck?
Yeah. that's one on this list that I can agree with. A lot of the ones on this list are from like movies I've never seen. Jack Torrance from The Shining.
Yeah.
He goes crazy. Oh, that's a bad dad.
Yeah, but like, is that one really his fault? Can we blame him when there is when there is like supernatural? For example, Hercules. Or Heracles. I want to talk about Heracles for a hot second. He murders his wife and kids.
Yeah.
However, he does so because Hera fucks with his head.
Yeah.
When she draws back her influence, Heracles is fucking horrified, and he does the labors to try to like make amends, like karmic, cosmic amends for what he has done, essentially.
Yeah.
Does that make him a bad dad? When there is like extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad dad because he was manipulated into it.
Yeah.
And manipulation is a hard thing to see and get rid of.
Especially when it's not even like human manipulation where people are like spreading like when it's literally a god reached into your head and twist things around, or when you have like ghosts and spirits of a fucked up hotel twisting you all up.
Red Foreman from That 70s Show. Now that one I don't know if I can agree with.
I think Red was a product of his time.
Yeah, like, sure, he was a strict father. Sure, he, like...
Withholding.
Withholding. But throughout the whole series, and we definitely get times of vulnerability with Red throughout the series. Specifically with Red and Eric, too. Like, it's rare, sure, but it's still, like, you know that Red loves Eric.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he might be strict, but he's also like, yeah, my kid's a pot smoking dumbass. Like, but yeah, that's one that I don't know if I can super agree with on that.
I mean, I guess what we said earlier about how our folks and you and I and our brothers are relatively well adjusted, like decent human beings, and that's kind of a reflection on their parenting. Not always. Some people are great in spite of their parentage, and that's a whole thing. That's like a whole other thing. I'm not saying we are the example or the rule for all of existence.
No,
I will
not at
say
all.
that Red's 2 children kind of fuck ups, though. Like, his daughter's a sociopath. Well, you can't control if your kid's a sociopath. She's a monster, though.
Yeah. But, like...
And Eric's a mousy little dumbass, so I don't know what to tell you.
He's a mousy little dumbass, but, like, then he goes on and he, like, becomes a relatively well-adjusted adult. Like, he goes to Africa, which I have found out was not the plan for Eric's character.
I can't imagine it was.
But he goes to Africa to like help people. Mm-hmm. Like it's just like one's better than the other.
Yeah, no, that's true. I want to talk real quick because we're talking a lot about bad dads because that's a Tantalus thing, but there's another thing in there's like 2 other major tropes in the Tantalus story that we could also touch on.
Yeah.
One of them is,
theft and gossip.
No, yes. But specific to Tantalus, one of them is the horrifying trope of surprise, you ate your relative.
We see that one in, was it Shakespeare or Greek Medea?
Well, Shakespeare, you did, yeah, there was a Shakespeare play like that. I don't know if Medea is that one. That's a Grecian one.
I know Medea comes in with 2 of her murdered kids. Yeah, that's what
But she doesn't cook them.
Yeah.
We will talk about Medea at some point in time. I have major thoughts.
She does appear in Percy Jackson. I can't remember when. I think she appears in Lost Hero.
Yeah, she goes up with Piper.
Medea.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I have lots of thoughts on Medea, but we will get there in the future. Yes, we could talk about that because, like, since Tantalus is a son of Zeus, he's not just, like, feeding his kid to the gods. It's, like, that's their relative. It's, like, family cannibalism, which, heads up, the Greeks didn't like.
No, the Greeks were not super into that.
No, there's a lot of, like, shady-ass bullshit that goes on in Greek, like, mythology in these storytelling traditions, but specifically, like, that element of, like, even when it's, like, only Demeter who takes a bite of the stew before, like, realizing what's going on because she's thinking about, like, Persephone. No. According to Mythology by Edith Hamilton, the poet Pindar called it a tale decked out with glittering lies against the word of truth. Let a man not speak of cannibal deeds among the blessed gods. Like, basically, they were like, we reject this canon. This is not canon.
Yeah. That's fucked.
But,
yeah. No, Tantalus is just a bad dude.
Bad dude. I decided I don't want to talk about all the times that someone has fed someone else their relative. That's a little too dark. I think
I'm into
for
that.
even our podcast that has a little E beside it. So I wanted to kind of talk about the other major trope that is caused directly because Tantalus is a bad dad, and that is the trope sounds weird, but
Killing of a son?
Yes. So, well, this one goes back to what I talked about at the beginning of the episode, the House of Tartarus, the hereditary curse tradition. Because, like I said, like, the reason this family is so fucked up is because of Tantalus and his wickedness. Like, that basically permeates the entire family. So you have his son, Pelops, who the gods actually bring back to life. They actually put him back together and bring him back to life, and he's missing a piece of his shoulder because Demeter accidentally ate it. So Hephaestus creates him like an ivory shoulder.
Nice.
Yeah, right? So he grows up surprisingly well-adjusted, all things considered. I imagine they gave him some waters from the river of Lethe and just kind of erased part of that memory.
Like, yeah, your dad, don't remember him fondly, but he didn't kill you. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Your dad, he died while you were young. Oh, well, moving on. So he grows up, gets married, has a couple kids. He has a pretty chill life. He's totally fine. And then his sons.
Oh, no.
Oh, and then his sons. His sons get to enjoy the impact of this generational curse bullshit that Tantalus has caused. His sons are Thyestes and Arcturus. And Thyestes had an affair with Arcturus' wife, so Arcturus decided the only reasonable response is to murder his brother's children and feed them to him.
Oh my god!
Yes!
Holy shit!
And
Jesus.
Because Arcturus... Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, that's it. That was just exclamations.
Just an upset sound, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Arcturus is king, he does not face punishment for what he has done. His descendants eventually do when we get to Agamemnon and Clemistria, their kids, and all that bullshit. But it happens just a little sooner than too, because Tantalus' daughter, Niobe, she gets married, and she seems like she's going to be chill too. She has like 14 kids. And then she decides one day, you know what? The people worship Leto, who was a human woman who was the mother of Artemis and Apollo, but she only had 2 kids, and I had 14. You should be worshiping me instead. And Artemis and Apollo don't care for that, so they show up and kill all of her children.
Yeah, that's fair.
So the generational curse ends with her on that side of the family, because there's no one to pass it on because all her kids are dead. But on the House of Arcturus, we see all of that, and so that's just a real fun thing that also we see in the Tantalus one.
Mm-hmm.
That there are a couple of family curses that, in addition to bad dads, I want to talk about, because the family curse exists because Tantalus is a bad dad, and I liked that, like, them intertwining together.
Yeah, that's good.
So a couple that I just want to hit on, because you talked about Invincible at the beginning of the episode. In the comics, in the final issue, it's revealed that the Blood Knight, who has like this hereditary curse of like Battle Beast, is what it's called. When he dies, the curse is passed to her daughter, or to his daughter. And it's like, cool. In Van Helsing, and I like it because it's like parentage has caused this one, not just the family is cursed. In Van Helsing, the Valorous family is bound by a curse, meaning that none of them can get into heaven until someone kills Dracula. Because one of their ancestors decided that was a thing they were gonna do.
Okay. That's cool. Thanks. Yep. Thanks, Grandpappy.
Yeah, right? Speaking of, hey, thanks, Grandpa. In Holes.
Yeah, that was the first one that came to mind.
Yeah, right. Do you wanna talk about that one for anyone who has not read the book?
I fucking love Holes. I've only seen the movie because I wasn't much of a reader as a kid.
That's okay.
Until Percy Jackson came around.
Aww.
Yeah. But I watched the movie, and from what everybody was telling me, it was like, yeah, no, it was a great adaptation. And its
great adaptation.
And its whole thing was that Stanley Yelnats's
no good, dirty, rotten great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, I was about I couldn't remember the whole thing. I just know it was a great-great-grandfather took advantage of a witch.
Basically.
Took advantage
Madame
of a witch.
Zeroni.
Yeah, was to get a pig to grow at an incredible rate. And it says yeah, you just take the pig up to the mountain, let it drink from the mountain, and sing it a song so it can grow big and strong. And then after you do that, take me up the mountain and sing to me so that I may grow big and strong. And can you guess what he forgot to do?
Did he forget to bring the witch woman to the mountain?
He forgot to bring the witch named Madame Zeroni up the mountain. And so she put a curse on his family for generations to come.
Yeah.
And that only ended when the main character, Stanley Yelnats III?
Yes.
Yeah. Met Zero. I don't remember Hector Zeroni. That's what it was.
Hector Zeroni, yeah.
Hector Zeroni. And they ran at the fucking Holes camp where they just we're digging holes. You ain't looking for nothing. You're building character. Come to find out they were looking for something.
Yeah, looking for buried treasure.
Looking for buried treasure with Stanley Yelnats's fucking name on it.
Because it was his ancestor because they were cursed to always fail, whatever they did. And their ancestor who made a fortune lost it all to a highway woman.
Yep, so he was always doomed to fail. And so we see that with his dad, with Stanley Yelnats Jr., trying to make a foot fungus cure, and he just can't.
Yeah.
And so so when they finally get together, they go to God's Thumb, which is just a big mountain that looks like a thumbs up. And they go up there, and Zeroni drinks from it, and just so happens that when Stanley Yelnats is in downtime, he likes to sing the song to himself. He sings the song.
That's the family song that they sing.
Yeah, and so he sings the song to himself, which lifts the curse.
Yeah, because he carried Hector up the mountain. Because Hector was they were exhausted, they were dehydrated, but they were like, let's get to the top of the mountain. Let's just get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, we're gonna
for no reason. They didn't know it was up there. It just we have to do it.
Yeah, they found a nice clean spring and some fucking killer onions, some sweet onions.
Killer onions! Oh, I forgot about the onions.
I always wanted to eat an onion like that, but then I'm like, no, onions are gross. As a kid,
if you cook them right, they're great, but not raw. I mean, those onions were.
Yeah.
What was
Red
that guy's
onions.
name?
Huh?
There's the guy. The onions are up there because the guy planted them. The guy that Kissing Kate Barlow was in love with, the black man.
Oh. Well, that's crazy. I didn't know that. They didn't show that in the movie.
No, they did.
Did they?
Yes. In the movie, she's... so, Sam, he is an onion farmer. And he ends up being lynched by the town because he's caught kissing the school mom, Kate. Because they're in love.
The mayor wanted him. Yeah, the mayor.
Yeah, the mayor was
Kate,
or not even the mayor. The richest man in town.
Oh, that's what it was.
Wanted her, and then so they killed him. They killed Sam. But that's so that Holes is such a great story because it's got all of these pieces that just weave together really, really well.
it is super solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good. And then like it's just a happy ending for everybody, except for the bad people.
Except for the bad people. Yeah, and I actually like the book, the movie better than the book because the ending is happier in the book. Not that they have a bad ending, but it's just like
they get more money.
They get more money, and they just get more. And not to say like you need like financial things to be happy, but it like after all the shit these kids have gone through, I like that they just get like, let me just write you a check for all the shit you went through. Here you go.
Yeah, God's like, all right, the curse is lifted, Madame Zeroni, you approved. Madame Zeroni's stamp of approval.
Yep.
Here it is, send it down.
Yeah. So I like Holes because it has the thing you don't often see with the family curses is that it gets broken by a member of the family. Like in Van Helsing, the curse isn't broken by a member of the family. Like it's Van Helsing's the one who kills Dracula after the last two descendants of the family have already died. And now they get to go to heaven. Or no, hold up. Van Helsing does kill Dracula before... Oh, right, because if she dies before the curse is broken, they're all fucked. So Van Helsing does kill Dracula, but then he turns into a werewolf, and she managed to turn him back, but he kills her because, you know, Hollywood loves it when female deaths propel male angst.
Yes. Especially in those times, like, for sure.
Yes, we saw it a lot in the early 2000s. I could do without.
Yeah. Got any more, Darian?
I have one more that I was just surprised by. I didn't know that this would kind of count. But in the Legend of Zelda franchise, there is
it the Garuda?
Huh?
You talk about the Garuda?
Yes. Ganon is a hereditary curse.
Yes.
In Skyward Sword, when Link and Zelda beat, I guess, the Demon King, he places a dying curse on them that their descendants will forever be forced to do battle with the living incarnate of his hatred. So, like, is Ganon just a guy who is being affected by this curse? Like, hold on.
So, technically speaking, they're getting, like, reincarnated for a lot of reasons.
Uh-huh.
One of them being a goddess, like, one of the reasons that, like, could be is a goddess has fallen in love with her warrior.
Uh-huh.
And so she wants to be with him forever. And so, Link and Zelda.
Cute.
That's that.
Cute.
The Triforce of Power, Courage, and Wisdom are all embedded in these people. So they are just constantly being reincarnated, constantly being forced to challenge each other in order to get it. And it's generally Ganondorf trying to get it and Courage and Wisdom trying to stop it. And the one time that we see, for the first time in a while, that I see the Triforce like made whole is in Link Between Worlds. And I don't know if that was like the end of that timeline. And I don't like, they didn't even fuck with the Triforce in Breath of the Wild. Like that was just not a thing. And so I don't know like what's going on with the Triforce anymore. But if that's what like Skyward Sword was, that's pretty sick. There's like a lot of moving parts for that. Like at least before Skyward Sword came out, a lot of people believe, oh, they're just being reincarnated because they all are just like incarnates of the Triforce, of like their pieces. Because like in like that's just how it is. And then in like the whole goddess thing, which is cool. And like I believe it was Ganon is like reincarnated because his hatred, because he wants the goddess. And that whole trope. Yeah.
You gotta let it go. Do some breathing episodes. Get on a dating app. There's plenty of fish in the sea. You could actually date a fish. You could date a sexy fish boy.
Yeah, and then when you brought up Legend of Zelda, I thought you were talking about the fact that Garuda are just like not technically able to conceive men except once every like 1,000 years or something like that.
That also definitely feels like a hereditary curse.
Yeah. And it's always Ganondorf. Every fucking time.
That's a bummer. Can you imagine?
I know. Every time it's Ganondorf. And so he comes out, and so that's why he always looks like that. That's
wild. I feel like you could definitely have a Lady Gerudo be Ganondorf. There's no reason you couldn't.
Well, yeah, like that's just the thing, though, is like it's just like, oh, the 1,000-year curse, the first guy to come about, and he's evil.
Yeah, that feels like a hereditary curse thing. It brings me back to Holes because I do like the breaking of the generational curses. Like
breaking
I
of
like
generational curses is the coolest thing in like anything. I think it's always so much fun.
Yeah, like it's really cool in holes, but I also think it's like cool in real life because I like that concept of it ran in your family until it ran into you. Like those things about your family that aren't great, like every family has it, like these bad traits, these toxic behaviors that are passed down again and again and again, like in Dungeons and Daddies. These shitty dads raised men who became shitty dads.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll break that curse by going and saving their sons and doing better, but like in the real world we have that as well.
They went a direction with one of them that I really didn't like.
Oh no.
I'm not gonna say it because it's really spoiler heavy because I already touched down on the fact that hey, their dads are there. So because that's relatively spoiler. But yeah, I went in a direction and I'm like, dude, I fucking hate that, and it made me almost not want to listen to the podcast. But their jokes were just too good.
Okay.
Like their vibe and energy is great, but the DM sometimes I'm like, dude, you're just like kind of railroading these people. And like that's just like how it felt. But I mean, I don't know if I can really say much because I haven't DM'd yet.
Well, we will soon, hopefully.
Soon, yeah.
As soon as you're moved into your new place, we're gonna get together. It's gonna be a blast.
And before we move on, I do want to bring up, in that same vein of like the D&D campaign that I'm going to be going, there's a class for a sorcerer that I thought was super dope. And when you brought up ancestral, like cursed bloodlines, I thought it was cool because the archetype for that sorcerer is the wretched bloodline.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So you are like this class is essentially your family has been cursed for so fucking long you can't even remember what's been going on. And so when it gets to you, and like every now and again, it manifests in such a way that they can use the power of that curse magic for their own use.
Oh shit, I like that.
So that like that magic that they're casting is the power of their curse getting cast. And I think that's super dope.
I like that. That's really cool. I like it a lot more than how the House of Tartarus curse gets broken, which is what we talked about in the Furies episode when Clemestria's son murders her and then gets hounded by the Furies. He eventually goes to Athens and is like, I think I've done my time. And Athena's like, yeah, I think you've done your time.
Yeah. And then, curse broken. Congratulations.
And I'm like, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like you did any work to try to become a better person to make amends for the things you and your family have done and like try to break that cycle actually. But sure, whatever. You do you, ancient Greece. I don't know.
That's crazy.
But yeah, we didn't talk about Tantalus much, but he fucking sucks. And I didn't want to talk about him a whole lot. I just wanted to talk about...
I do got to say, like, one thing, because I feel like people are going to get on to us if we don't, since we brought up Marvel. Eco! Bad Dad!
Ego, the living planet. Oh, yeah, we talked about the MCU specifically. That motherfucker.
Bad Dad.
Holy
Yondu,
shit.
good dad.
Yeah,
Ego,
we see it.
Bad Dad.
Fatherhood again. Bad dad, good dad. I mean, Yondu was, Quill has trauma.
Well, yeah, because he was abducted.
Yondu.
Because Yondu, but like Yondu was working for Ego.
Also, Yondu threatens to eat. Holy shit, is Yondu Tantalus? But doesn't actually follow through on his threat?
Yeah. Yondu is just like, yeah, I don't like you, Ego, and so he takes Ego's son.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, Yondu finds out, oh, you're gonna kill your kid probably. That's what you've been doing with all these kids. Nope, we're done. Fuck it. I'm gonna take him.
And then
I'm gonna threaten to eat him sometimes.
Yeah. But he just never does.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. That was really, ugh. He might be your father, but he was never your daddy. Okay,
that's such a strong line, and I do like that. Like, that is such, like, a line that I'm like, yeah, he may be your father, but he's not your daddy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there's the distinction between father and dad.
Right? Yeah, I think...
a father is somebody who's, like, your biological father and has, like, seed donor, essentially. Your dad is
just sperm
the
donor.
person who raised you and helped you and grew you into the person you are.
I literally just had this conversation with a couple friends last night and talking about how, like, if you are, like, a person with, and, like, you could be a dad if you just conceived a child. But you don't have to actually do any of the work. And it's like, but dad implies that you are a parent and a father and a caregiver and an upbringer and a teacher and all those things that, like, dad or parent or mother are supposed to be. That's not true. We should definitely have another term for you're a dad and you're a sperm donor who didn't have to go to a sperm bank to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's just, I don't know if we got any more to go on, though.
I don't know. I definitely think maybe we need to have an episode on good dads at some point, or good parents. It's just really
that could be
hard
the
when you're
bonus
talking about the
episode
Greek
that follows
gods.
this one.
Huh?
That could be the bonus episode that follows this one.
Good dads. Yeah. Are you bummed out about hearing about bad dads? Yeah, us too. Here are some good dads.
Yeah.
That could be
We'll
a
have
fun
some
one,
good
yeah.
dads as a bonus episode, so look for that in our Patreon. $5 will get you to listen to it, so please come and check us out. We also have a good amount of backlog right now for our bonus episodes. And if you want to hear our remyth episodes, that's 15. I know we've explained this in the capsule. 10. You're right. I don't know why I'm getting this mixed up.
15 is when you get to pick a remyth episode.
Yeah. And we say your name at the end of every episode.
Mm-hmm.
In a fun, robotic voice. I know we've said this in the camp story, but like...
Yeah, we'll hear that robotic voice in a couple seconds, because I think that's going to be the end of the episode. You just wrapped it up pretty well.
Awesome. Well, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If you made it this far, that was a long episode, I feel.
We should stop apologizing for episode length, because it sounds like we did something wrong, and I'm perfectly fine with our episode lengths. I personally love long podcast episodes. It means I don't have to skip or fuss around with my app. I can just listen for hours.
That's fair. No, I feel that.
Yeah, but if we missed any major bad dads in pop culture that you're just like, how could you not talk about this one? Tweet at us. Hit us up on Instagram. Send us
Spock's
an email.
dad.
Did you say Spock's dad?
I think so.
You think Spock's dad from Star Trek was bad dad?
Very, very little of it, and he doesn't seem like a great dude. I could be wrong. I could be thinking of somebody
You're
else.
very wrong.
I'm thinking of the teacher that was a dick to Spock in the very first, the movie.
The JJ, he was not his dad. No, oh my.
Anyway, have a great day, everybody. We will see you next time.
We will be back on Tuesday, August 3rd, to talk about another dad. I would say slightly less terrible than Tantalus. However, his trial did try to overthrow all of Western civilization, so we'll discuss that further.
Who was it?
Hermes?
Ah, yeah, that's right.
In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. We will catch y'all soon, and don't be like Zeus or Tantalus.
Or Tantalus, for that matter. Just don't, if you see a father figure in most of Greek culture, just don't try to mimic that.
Just don't. Yeah. Do not. Podcast of Poseidon is created and hosted by Darian and DJ Smart. It's edited by Darian Smart. The show is produced by Darian and DJ Smart, as well as
Tim O'Connor, the Crystal Con Man. Our music is Athens Festival by Martin Hain, and our cover art is by Audrey Miller. You can find her on Instagram at bombshellnutshellart. Like the show? Ready for more? Support Podcast of Poseidon on Patreon. Just $1 gets you exclusive bonus content. Find out more at patreon.com/podcastofposeidon. Can't spare the drachmas? You can support the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcast or by sharing us with your friends. Find all of our episodes and episode transcripts at podcastofposeidon.com. Thanks for listening.